This is the first in our series of conversations about marketing effectiveness. I think it's fair to say that it's really taken off as a conversation.
Absolutely.
In the past few years. Obviously, as a discipline, it's quite well established, but in the last couple of years, maybe it's become a really hot topic. Why do you think that is?
Probably the biggest causal factor is the deprecation of cookies that's looming on the horizon. And then Google's privacy sandbox changes that are all going to be rolled out over the next year or two. The other side of this is marketing budgets are getting a little bit tighter. There's definitely budget purse strings being pulled because the market downturn post-COVID is in effect. And I think this means people are just interrogating their marketing budgets a bit more. And so exactly how effective each channel is more important to them. But I do think that this is a conversation that's a bit overdue too. I think we need to shine a light on how do we measure these channels better than how the channels want to measure themselves.
We did a survey recently, and it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenges that marketers called out was understanding how to effectively measure the impact of their spend. Everybody is finding it really difficult. It's such a saturated market, loads of solutions out there. How does a marketer begin to navigate? Do they need MMM? Do they need an attribution model? How would you help a client who's going through this?
It depends on client size for one thing. And obviously the more budget you have, the more channels you have in the mix, the bigger a solution is better really. So a marketing mix model might be great if you have lots and lots of channels, if you've got contingent factors impacting on each other, if you're operating in retail as well as e-commerce and things like that. If you're a much smaller budget and you're only one or two channels, maybe an MMM isn't suitable and you want to do some smaller scale testing or something, and that makes sense for you. I think it's a bit of a case-by-case basis thing. If you engage with kind of media effectiveness dialogues, it's something that you need to start thinking about. And it'll become clear over the course of our series, I think, where you sit on the spectrum of small scale testing on one side or an entire model on the other. And I actually think that ultimately there's no one answer either. No one solution is the perfect solution. And this is probably something that we're going to end up talking about a lot going forwards too. Because if we say, well, okay, the cookies are going away, so we need to start thinking about other ways of measuring. It's not really to say that the old ways of measuring are gone either. There's tons of marketing content that's like attribution is dead, but probably not really dead. It's kind of a attribution is dead, long live attribution kind of thing, because it's still useful. We're just starting to recognize some of its shortcomings now, I think, because it's never really been the solution we wanted it to be, but we always trusted that it was.
Yeah, that's something that's like typical of our industry, probably most, but marketing especially. We love a trend, we love a bandwagon, we love throwing all of our eggs in whatever the latest basket is. And so I guess that's something for marketers to be wary of. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution that is right for everyone just because we're all talking about media effectiveness.
Yeah.
Like it's a toolbox, right, with lots of different tools
Exactly.
in it. You've got to find the right configuration for you as a business.
I think that's probably one of the difficult things right now. Like you said earlier, the market's really getting saturated with products that are solutions to these problems, and in a lot of ways they are. But I think there's a danger if you grab a tool that will do an MMM for you and maybe it'll make recommendations, but it doesn't come with any of the insights or statistical analysis knowledge that you might need to understand what it means or what you should infer from it. So maybe you don't make the best decisions off the back of it. I think ultimately what media effectiveness as a discipline going forward needs to do is draw all the disparate channels together. I think right now there's so many moving parts in marketing. You kind of got business goals on one side, overarching strategy on another side, channel activators somewhere over here, and they're kind of often siloed out into individual channels. Media effectiveness could just be another aspect of this if you grab a tool off the shelf and start using it, but it needs to be something that you integrate more. And I think it might be able to act as an anchor, really. It's something that can pull all these things together, because do it right and it can be the linchpin of making a good decision about where to invest and how to invest.
Who do you think is going to get the most value out of starting a marketing effectiveness conversation, perhaps going to get the most value out of the kind of content that we'll be talking about here?
And got a bit of a cheeky answer here, which is basically everyone. I think there is a spectrum of what you use and how you use it. There's lots of brands that still use last click attribution, for example. For them, starting to think about media effectiveness beyond last click attribution is a really big step, and this series matters for them and this discussion matters for them. But even if you already have a complex media mix analysis, starting to interrogate it more, build more complicated or more smart models is really important too. So I think having the conversation about media effectiveness is something that needs to happen everywhere, and probably all of us need to get better at understanding how it all works. Whether you're just a junior marketing analyst or in the C-suite, thinking about media effectiveness is going to be very, very key to making smart strategic decisions over the next few years.